Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Historical Humans Reacts. And on today's topic, we're going to Botswana and Namibia in the northern part of South Africa, where we're looking at the ṭKhomani cultural landscape. Tribal Africa, let's go.
Yep. So the Kamani cultural landscape actually also coincides with what is known as the Kalahari Gemsboek National Park. Um, and it's a large sandy area that contains evidence of human occupation dating back to the Stone Age. So this place has been inhabited by these people for an extremely long period of time. Um, the Komani Sand people, which were formerly nomadic, have lived in and around this land for thousands of years. And the cultural landscape protected by UNESCO here um, is a reflection of their worldview, cultural practices, and botanical knowledge that have been shaped by the geographic features of this region. It's sort of these people's cultural mapping onto the geology that is around them. This is something that occurs in cultures all over the world, and this one here is specific to these people. Uh, you can put any other people in this region, and they will not create the same uh, cultural landscape that the Komani have created, and in that it is entirely unique and completely irreplaceable. Like I feel the need to lead with that as much as possible, uh, just because there's a lot of happenstance that comes on of like desert people are desert people and are going to be shaped by the same general concepts and beliefs.
Well,
No, that's not true. They might share a survival strategy, but that's going to be it.
this one's very interesting because it is also one of the last indigenous groups in South Africa, and it shows how the history, migration, livelihood, memory, resources of the people, how they interact and adapt to the desert and how to survive in it, and how they're formerly nomadic populations and they develop subsistence strategies to cope with the extreme conditions of the environment and developed a specific ethnobotanical and veldt knowledge as well as practices where geologic features embody symbolic links between the landscape, between humans, between wildlife. Like it's very, very interesting. And one of the things that's great is they're going through a reclamation period where they're trying to bring back a lot of their old ways of life and working to save their language,
Yeah,
which is
the
something that a lot of American tribes can also link to.
yeah a lot. Of, this is something that you unfortunately end up seeing in a lot of uh, places that are undergoing decolonization. The culture and the language goes into a reclamation period where you have only a handful of speakers uh, pushing into a population boom of speakers that the language is no longer suppressed, so they are trying to bring it back. And it's great that they're bringing it back, but like the fact they have to go through this effort just to speak their own language is just speaks to how close these people came from being destroyed entirely.
Yeah, the British are pretty good at that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that's really cool is that despite residential development, commercial farming, and the national park, how they've changed and disrupted the traditional living, um, they have been working and are reestablishing parts of the land. And the South African Sand Institution and other institutions work with the ṭKhomani to record these knowledge systems, language, oral histories through stories. And the Mbewu Bush Camp is situated deep in the dunes of the Ahe Kalahari Heritage Park, which lies in the southern part of the KGNP And what it does is it's a veld school or a field school or bush school, which is a regularly practiced um, school that gives the opportunity to learn from elders about the plants, about the animals, and the ecological interrelationships as well as the spiritual world. So it's a way for them to do that reclamation, for them to teach the youth and to impart these traditions and cultural identities on to preserve them for future generations.
And the like key tenet of the philosophy is something called living softly. What this is a general idea that the interactions between people and the rest of the world should be equitable. So it's an emphasis on sustainability and a general belief that humanity is a part of nature, not something as you see with the European philosophies, especially starting back in the medieval period, that humanity is something above and greater than and separate from nature. The concept of, quite literally being one with nature out here. Everything is an exchange.
I do find it very fascinating and something that I think should be even further investigated and studied is how you see a lot of these indigenous groups, how they tend to have this very strong connection to nature, this very strong connection to the wildlife, this very strong spiritual and symbolic connection to the landscapes that they occupy. Something that I feel like is often lost when you have settler colonials coming in and displacing these populations.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting. But one of the cool things is the landscape is actually um, pretty protected, both in Botswana and in South Africa, as they're both entirely contained within national parks now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the rings on a bullseye kind of here. You have all the regulations surrounding the national parks that you have to get through just to get near this cultural landscape. And then you have all the regulations protecting the cultural landscape once you try to go further in. It's a it's a nice what's it called? Not view shed, but what do we call the area around a monument?
Like a protection area.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I guess protection areas. I was hoping we'd remember like a really fun term for that, but yeah, just
Well,
to
view shed is visual impacts,
yeah. But it's just a nice
buffer zone.
insular zone surrounding it. There is no like whole like we see with a lot of these other sites where like yeah sure the monument itself is protected, but right up until you touch that monument, you could theoretically build a garbage dump. That is not the case here. Uh, not by a long shot.
I feel like those pictures of the pyramids of Giza and seeing them from the other angle where you see the
Oh
urban
yeah,
sprawl right up to the
yeah.
base.
Where you see the nightmare that is actual Giza, and you go,
At
all those poor people.
least they got a good view, but yeah, I
Yeah.
figured this would be an interesting one to talk about, especially because we don't cover Africa all that frequently. So, I think that's a good point for us to wrap up. Thank you guys for watching, and we will catch you in our next video.